At one time, the Anilam Crusader M control on this worked okay. It's kind of old technology for CNC, but it gradually got more and more persnickety and finally got to the point where when you turned it on, all you got was this green line, and it was sometimes possible to turn it off and back on again a couple times until you got a full display, but it's been quite a while since I've seen it. And of course, a CNC mill with a dead controller is the worst of all worlds. You don't have dials on your table feeds except for the knee lift, and you don't have any hand brakes. You can't lock the table in any position, so it is really a manual mill at that point. So I have just ordered from a company called Monitech a replacement liquid crystal display that will replace the CRT in the Anilam. They claim that if you can operate a screwdriver, you can change this. So here we go. Okay, let's see what we have in the box. A little bit of advertising. A warning: don't forget the cables. Don't throw away your packing material until you're absolutely sure. And an easy setup guide. And a cable. 15-pin, typically like a 15-pin video cable. This looks like a connector for the electronics in the monitor head here, and that looks like a power supply if I ever saw one. And this appears to be the monitor. Looks to be about the right size. Anything else in the box? Nothing that I can see. Does this mean that I have to come up with a power supply? Nobody mentioned that. This is just set up for after you've got it connected. Well, this may turn out to be interesting. Let's go around and have a look at the inside of the okay. We have the back of the monitor, the control head off. Wires neatly labeled by somebody, apparently last serviced by Betatronics in March of 2004. However, I do not see the magic plug that is going to just immediately accept the cable that they sent along, and I do not see a power supply. So that's going to be reasonably interesting. Also, that CRT, which I just had on, is probably charged up to, oh, who knows, 10,000 volts maybe? Little black and white, little monochrome CRT. Certainly 30,000, maybe 10, maybe more. So I'm off to get something to discharge it with. Well, dry stick, 10 meg resistor, and sheet metal screw and a test lead will make up for the fact that I just can't find the high voltage tester that I used when I fixed televisions regularly. Incidentally, sticking your fingers into a box where a cathode ray tube exists is something that really ought to be managed by someone who has fixed an occasional television. Alright, let's go back in here. Now, we hook the test lead to one side of the resistor, and the other end of the test lead gets connected to a good ground in the system somewhere. And then, I don't know if you can actually see it, but around on the other side of the tube, I'm going to have to get in the way here, there is a little thing that looks like a suction cup sitting on the side of the tube, and under that I'm going to have to put the end of that resistor. And you may be able to hear it zap and crackle as I do. And I may have to get something a little stiffer than a resistor. Yep. Pause for tool modification. Okay. The recipe now is a little piece of stiff wire, 3 sheet metal screws, a 10 meg ohm resistor, and a test lead. Now we'll see if we can slip this underneath that anode cap. It is old and dried out. Okay. We can leave that there because it takes a while for the high voltage to drain down out of this conductive coating on the outside and another similar coating on the inside, which together with the glass acts as a capacitor. And it takes a while for the charge to migrate around to the anode cap. And it will recover. I mean, it'll pull electrons out of the glass and I'll be ready to zap you years later sometimes. So, what do we disconnect to get the CRT out of here? To me, it looks kind of like those 4 screws there, but that doesn't seem quite right. Although it could be. What I don't know is whether maybe it's this whole bracket, But if it is, I cannot see where one would get at those screws. Okay, let's see if we can at least get the tube out of here. Okay, where does the yoke plug in? That's going to be a nuisance. Let me get a set of dikes. Okay, let's cut this cable tie. And get this out of the way. Do not remove this cover. Shock hazard. Okay. Alright, the yoke goes down and it plugs in. Back there, it looks like. Alright. Because it's not easy to get the yoke off a CRT, and once you get it off, it's even harder to get back on. Alright, let's get us something in the way of a pair of gloves. Alright, Tom Lipton approved MaxiFlexes. These will not protect you from a shock, by the way, but if through some grave mischance I was to badly mishandle the CRT, it could very well save me from a cut or two. Alright, I think we have everything off the CRT at this point. One screw dropped down into the bottom. I can see it, so I can get it later. Another screw dropped into the bottom. Okay, at this point we really need to begin supporting the tube. That sounded like another screw gone to the bottom. And the tube starts tipping, so I'm assuming it's loose. fourth screw into the bottom. And as always, a surprisingly heavy CRT. In order to put a vacuum behind a flat front plate like that, that flat front plate has to be pretty darn come on. See if the other end of this anode wire will come loose, because it's certainly giving me a hard time at that end. Well, it ain't going back in. So, snoop, like the Marx Brothers, snoop off this side, snoop off that side, looking a little uneven there. All right. Now, the question is, does this whole thing come out? Or does the new and what is the video signal? That is the cassette. That's keyboard. This is the CRT connector. Red and black. Screws falling everywhere. Aha! This actually snaps in with some little slide connectors. Alright, let us see what we shall see. There's one. It's hell with bifocals, you can't see out of it, anything close out of the top of them. There's one more up there, which I can't see. And can't get to without some assistance here. You can never have too many step stools. Something to grab onto. Alright, somewhere up in the top there is another one of those little slide fasteners, and when that comes loose the whole thing's going to fall. Let's put this one back in for a moment. Okay, that one's loose. Now we can undo this one again. this whole thing should come off. And the instructions say do not use any of the CRT electronics, and I would hazard a guess that this would be considered part of the CRT electronics, in which case I think we need to no reason not to take the back off the case if I think we need a thinner screwdriver. No? That'll do. Alright, so clean this stuff off this board and see if our our replacement will mount to this. That would be nice. Okay, I hope that the fan is not making too much noise, but frankly it's getting a little warm down here. Let's see. Alright, let's see what else we got. Come on. Well, once again, this is not going back on. I think terminal excision is called for. All right. All this stuff is in theory no longer needed, except for this. However, I see things on this board like bright and horizontal hold and contrast, which suggests to me that somewhere in here that connected to this board was the video. And I'm guessing that I'm guessing it went in through that plug right there. And frankly, I do not see anything that plugs into. So, it may be time to take Monotech up on their offer and say, hey, you said if I had a problem, take a picture and send it to us. Because right now, I do not see anything that suggests either a power supply or video. Well, I think it is definitely time to take them up on their offer. See, we got all kinds of stuff in here. We got the high voltage stuff here. That's the flyback, you can tell, because that's where the anode wire came out of. And but there's nothing whatsoever to identify what's the video and where it gets grounded against. So, with one exception, which is to check the fit of the new controller here. And the fit is good. Get these screws out from here before I scratch my faceplate. Yes, this is going to go right back in with the same 4 screws that held the CRT. Excellent, excellent. Okay, that's enough for this session. And now it's time to start taking some still pictures to send to the folks at Monotech.